Hello, hello, hello. Good morning and welcome to our stream this morning. It is so fantastic to go ahead and be back streaming today. I am so excited to talk about some of the most recent X-Men comics that came out not only this past week, but some that are coming out in the future here, extending as far into December. I really think that Marvel Comics from the Ashes line for the X-Men has still been absolutely tremendous to date so far. And before we get started on our stream today, I actually want to go ahead and discuss the most recent issue of X-Men. I am trying to pivot our content over on the channel just a little bit to create some videos that are more timely. And this week up on the channel, we had the raid on Grey Malkin video. However, I want to go ahead and discuss the most recent chapter of X-Men as well, because we didn't have time to make a video review on that this week. So X-Men issue 4, written by Jed McCabe, featuring artwork from Neto Diaz, inks from Sean Parson, colors from Marte Gracia, and letters from VC's Clayton Cowles. For me, this issue was just a blast here as we got to see our X-Men fight against some really obscure characters, Trevor Fitzroy and the Upstarts. In the background, I think author Jed McCabe did a great job managing the incredibly diverse cast of X-Men that he's utilizing. This issue got the opportunity to see characters like Juggernaut, Beast, and Magic team up to try and save a mutant, as well as go up to bat against Trevor Fitzroy and some of the rest of these characters. Some of my favorite takeaways from the issue was really the complex characterization from Beast. I really feel like we can see Beast backsliding just a little bit as I read through the context of the issue into what was happening with him before Krakoa. I love the idea that this book is taking on such a challenging concept with this character and is really pulling one of the most important plot threads out of Krakoa to just weaponize that continuity and make as good of a comic book as humanly possible here. Plus, some recent issues have given some really fantastic characterization over to Temper Idy as a character. Watching her save this fellow X-Men character and really just show off how resourceful she is as a mutant is so much fun. Plus, I think the plotting and just seeing the character behind Trevor Fitzroy towards the end of the issue was such a blast. I don't want to reveal the identity of that character, because you have to read this chapter of X-Men. It has nearly anything you can think of inside of it in terms of the characterization. Also, I just want to give some quick spotlight here over to the protagonist of Magic, who has just a great final scene in the issue, teasing maybe the surprise appearance of an upcoming character related to her in future issues of Marvel Comics X-Men. Also, before we go ahead and start our stream today, I also want to say that the most recent issue of Ultimate X-Men 7, written and illustrated by Peach Momoko, featuring art, featuring additional scripting from Zach Davison, and letters from VC's Travis Lanham. This book was also just absolutely mesmerizing. Sadly, we didn't get an opportunity to review this one up on the channel, but I think this is one of the best issues of Ultimate X-Men to date. Seeing these characters introduced in the context of this really mysterious cult, and really getting to know the character of Kageyama a little bit closer in the context of this cult was so, so fascinating. I love where Peach Momoko is going. I hope this book continues to get as dark as possible and manages to combine so many fascinating X-Men together under one roof here. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome you over to our stream today. I am so excited to go ahead and preview Marvel Comics' upcoming solicitations, going over some brand new X-Men comics. We had a video up on the channel this past week, but the X-Men is finally headed into one of their biggest crossovers yet with the raid on Grey Malkin's story that's really looking to capitalize on some of the animosity with Rogue and Cyclops. This has been teased since some of the very earliest issues of From the Ashes, so I'm really thrilled to be watching this here in real time. Plus, I think it's just so fascinating to be able to watch these events before they even take place, and just to be able to see some of the pieces come together before the X-Men actually head into that really interesting raid on Grey Malkin crossover. In fact, we even have a preview of the latest issue of Uncanny X-Men to go ahead and talk about today. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Uncanny X-Men issue 3. This one is coming in over from slashfilm.com, who had an exclusive on Marvel Comics flagship X-Men series. As you can see here, it looks like this issue is putting the spotlight on the character of Nightcrawler. I think Nightcrawler is going to go so well with this really kind of traditional X-Men team that's, I think, focusing on some of the bones of what Chris Claremont was able to establish with some of these characters. So currently in Marvel Comics' main Uncanny X-Men series, the characters of the Outliers were most recently introduced, and some of these characters, they're very young mutants, were actually going to battle against some of the X-Men. So I think it's going to be really thrilling to watch some of the dynamics and how these characters start to interact with the rest of our X-Men heroes. I want to go over some of their names really quickly. So we have Calico, Jitter, Ransom, and Death Dream. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at Slash Film's preview of Uncanny X-Men issue 3. This one is written over by Devin Meenan. Uncanny X-Men 3 promises swashbuckling in Southern Gothic superheroes. The Krakoa of X-Men Comics saw the mutants of the world build a new homeland on a South Pacific island. The X-Men and their kind went from being feared and hunted to a global superpower with all the security and compromises such a nation takes. The Krakoan Age wrapped earlier in 2024, and the relaunched X-Men from the Ashes line sees mutants again divided and scattered across the globe. One of the stronger series of this new era so far is Uncanny X-Men, launched in July 2024, written by the legendary Gail Simone and drawn by David Marquez. The book stars some vagabond X-Men featuring Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, Jubilee, and possibly Nightcrawler over in this upcoming issue. These characters are also living out of Gambit's home state of Louisiana. Uncanny X-Men is the book most in tune with how X-Men readers are feeling post-Krakoa. They had everything they dreamed of and lost it, so now what's to fight for? I can definitely see what this article is trying to hint at by saying this is the book most in tune with how the X-Men readers are feeling. However, I want to disagree a little bit. I really think that even though I love the tone of X-Men and even Uncanny X-Men, there is something about the really complex and nuanced characterization of both Exceptional X-Men and even the really settled plotting of NYX that has really kind of captured my imagination so far. I think out of the From the Ashes comic books, these are the two books that are really capturing my attention and imagination. But some of the characterization and camaraderie that Gail Simone has been able to implement in her Uncanny X-Men comic book has also made her run so far a ton of fun. Our heroes got their answer when they met a group of young mutants, the Outliers, who are on the run from a mysterious hag. The other half of the comic follows the Grey Malkin Institute, a new mutant prison built out of the conquered Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Readers learned at the end of issue 2 that the Hag is in league with Grey Malkin and has an untold past with Professor X. So in terms of Uncanny X-Men, some of the biggest plot threads the comic book is dealing with are not only some of those young mutant characters called the Outliers, but also all this business going on with Grey Malkin in the background. We have the character of Dr. Karina Ellis conspiring with some of her associates, like the mysterious Philip, as well as Captain Ezra. Dr. Karina Ellis has asked some of her associates to refer to her as a warden, and seems to be turning this Xavier School into a full-on prison here. I think this is such an ambitious plot thread for Gail Simone to take on in some of the very first issues of Uncanny X-Men, and really kind of watching it all come together in this raid on Grey Malkin's story for me is absolutely fascinating. Uncanny X-Men has delivered on kick-ass mutant action so far. The first issue featured the X-Men fighting a dragon. Simone's bouncy, innuendo-laden dialogue is a perfect fit for both lovebirds Rogue and Gambit. Simone has also promised some Southern Gothic horror vibes too, though there's been hints of this. from the Hag's design to the X-Men and Outliers scuffle happening around a campfire. The cover of issue 4 shows Rogue in a torn dress hiding behind a tree while the shadowed hag hunts her, also suggests horror. In addition to this, I think the comic book has done a great job setting up this mysterious character of the Hag. We had the character of Harvey X reference the mysterious Endling, and even towards the end of the most recent cliffhanger of Uncanny X-Men 2, we also got to see that character show up as well. However, it looks like this sets the stage for Nightcrawler to enter in on the fun in the third issue of X-Men. Over on this cover from David Marquez, we see Nightcrawler with a smile on his face, wielding a sword like a swashbuckler. Kurt's dynamic pose pops beautifully next to Marquez and fellow cover artist Matthew Wilson's purple smoke in the background. I love how this article also makes reference of Matthew Wilson as a color artist. I think so much of the interesting purple hues of smoke in the background is really showing off just how visually dynamic Nightcrawler is as a character. Finally, let's go ahead and see some preview pages on Uncanny X-Men issue 3. This one features mostly the same creative team with Gail Simone and David Marquez. I love how this issue kicks off here with the characters of Rogue and Gambit kind of sharing a very intimate moment very early in the morning around 4:25 a.m. over in New Orleans. Hey AfroSF, really fantastic to see you over on our stream today. AfroSF says, I didn't expect you to stream today. Can't afford to buy Uncanny X-Men, but it looks good. Don't worry, AfroSF, we will go ahead and talk about all of the most relevant plot threads and get you all caught up to speed here for the raid on Grey Malkin's story. And yeah, I wanted to go ahead and really come back to streaming in full force here. Hopefully moving forward, we'll be here every single Saturday. And in place of some of those comic book reviews that we used to have up on the channel, I'm really going to make some more timeless content that's hopefully going to stand the test of time a little bit better than some of those reviews in general. Really appreciate you checking out the stream today. I think so much of Gail Simone's dialogue for Rogue has been so fantastic in the book. I want to go ahead and read just a few of the final lines as this scene transitions over into the next one. Let's see. And that's all of us right now. Sleep, dark eyes, I'm just restless. We're all mourning as best we can. All these comics reference the Krakoan era and everything that came out of the final moments of that. It really feels like Rogue is kind of mourning some of her final moments that she spent there. And in this next page, we see her transition over to a more casual setting with Wolverine. I love this page. There's so much humor implemented from the really subtle scene transitions over from David Marquez. Plus the idea of Rogue walking into Wolverine at 4 in the morning drinking tequila, I think is so funny. Due to the fact that Wolverine has his advanced healing factor, he's not worried about really trivial things like his liver in the issue. Rogue says, little early for tequila, ain't it? Wolverine responds, I'd say it's about 4 decades late as it happens. And then he offers Rogue a swig, to which she responds, I'm good. And then Wolverine actually transitions into a conversation more centered around the Outliers characters, really talking about some of their relationships and how they're going to function with the X-Men moving forward. I am just mystified by the really subtle way that Gail Simone was able to transition from a piece centered all around Rogue to one talking about some of the most important plot threads in Uncanny X-Men to date so far. This issue also introduces so many of our Outliers characters. We have Ransom, Jitter, Calico, and Death Dream. I think all these characters have been so fascinating to date so far. Seeing Calico's relationship, with her horse is really interesting. Jitter is able to adapt her powers of extreme focus in so many combat situations, and I love just so much of the personality that the Death Dream character has. Wolverine refers to him as a manga kid as well, referencing some of his more dour personality traits as well over in the comic book issue. This is also where the preview leaves off. I want to read Rogue's final piece of dialogue here, and then we will transition into our very next comic book. Rogue states, Heh, horse girl. You better learn their names if you're going to help train them, sourpuss. In that way, it really feels like Uncanny X-Men as a comic book is really transitioning to focus on these new X-Men, really shepherding the next generation of Outliers characters. I am so excited to see some of these characters team up together. Plus, it looks like these heroes are set to battle against some of Cyclops' X-Men team over in Alaska. So we're going to be really expanding on this in the near future. But for now, we're going to go ahead and transition into a brand new comic book. Okay, give me just a few moments here while we set up our next story. Okay, one of the other most important things that we've talked about over on this stream again and again and again has been the finale of author Zeb Wells' Spider-Man run. I think this has been a really awesome Spider-Man run that has been able to recontextualize Spider-Man in so many different stories. At the end of the day, for me, it really feels like Zeb Wells has added so much continuity to the Spider-Man character. I am really thrilled by the new direction he's taken this battle between Spider Man and the character of Tombstone. Since the very early stages of this massive, amazing Spider Man series, Zeb Wells has built up so much animosity between Tombstone, Lonnie, and Spider Man. This is also a character that was featured in the original run, too, so I love the way that Zeb Wells has been able to expand the relationship between these two characters in so many different ways. We previously saw Tombstone and Spider Man team up together during Marvel Comics' Gang War. However, this final arc of The Amazing Spider Man is actually pitting Tombstone against Peter Parker as Spider Man, and their confrontation has gotten deadly over some of the most recent chapters. Tombstone was actually featured in prison just for an issue before he miraculously was able to make his way out. And Tombstone is actually seeking vengeance on some of his own family members, as the character of Janice Lincoln was one of the people responsible for putting him in the prison in the first place. So let's go ahead and see how Tombstone is waging war, sadly, against his own family in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, Chapter 58. This one is coming in from Adventures in Poor Taste. Let's go ahead and check out the very quick solicit on the issue. The most visceral issues in Amazing Spider-Man history begin here. So Amazing Spider-Man 58, written by Zeb Wells, featuring artwork from John Romita Jr., inks from Scott Hanna, colors from Marcio Menes, letters from VC's Joe Caramagna, and the cover for the issue still illustrated by John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Maury Hollowell. Just referencing the cover real quick from John Romita Jr., I always love it when he's able to capture these really serious covers with Spider-Man basking in the rain. I feel like it's able to tap into some of the greatest parts of his artwork with the really interesting pose that Spider-Man is given here, juxtaposed with this really violent weather featured just in the background of the page. Okay, let's also talk about this really gorgeous John Romita Jr. page focusing on some big facial expressions, not only from the character of Tombstone, but his daughter, Janice, too. In the last issue, Janice actually ran into Tombstone, I believe in her own home, and Tombstone may have actually killed Janice's lover. So this is a very dark period for the Amazing Spider-Man. Honestly, this feels like one of the darkest stories to date so far. Watching John Romita Jr. depict Tombstone loading his clip and pointing his gun directly at his daughter is just absolutely horrifying. We've had issues after issues of buildup of people telling Tombstone that he's not aggressive enough, he's not violent enough. So really watching him take action here is really understandable, but at the same time, really depressing. This family was just recently reunited, and I wish they were, embracing each other instead of going to war. On this page, we can see Tombstone just unloading, a clip of bullets against his own daughter here, shooting the various pieces of furniture, just all across the room. I think on this fourth panel on the page, Tombstone delivers this really solemn expression that is just horrific to watch. I think the next page is also quite fascinating here as we touch on some of the other dangling plot threads of Amazing Spider Man. It seems like She Hulk has already realized that, Tombstone is actually making a move over on Janice. Plus, in the background, we have some of the associates that Janice was working with in some of the previous issues of Spider Man. And plus, Spider Man also was working with She Hulk during the gang war. So it feels really appropriate to feature that character, going to war or referencing some of the rest of these characters. I am so happy with this preview of Amazing Spider-Man, and the more I see some of these previews on the Zeb Wells comic books, the more I think that he probably could have done more with his run on Spider-Man. I kind of have a concern with the larger view about the way that Marvel Comics is aggressively relaunching so many of their comic books. I wish the publisher had a more, long-term vision of some of their stories. A great case in point with this would be Krakoa. Krakoa was really able to have a lasting impact on the Marvel Universe because it was able to be featured in years of comic book storytelling. And while I do want to commend Marvel for at least giving Zeb Wells a couple years of stories, I just have a feeling that he could have accomplished more if he was on this book longer. That being said, though, I am so impressed with what both Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. have delivered in just these like 3 to 4 pages of this preview. I can't wait to see where Spider-Man is going next. In fact, why don't we go ahead and talk about where Spider-Man is going next? Marvel Comics just released their full solicitations, and we have some brand new covers over for the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man story. As I said before, it is just insane how fast Marvel is relaunching some of these books right now. We're not even through the Zeb Wells series. We have like even 2 issues left of that. And we have like almost, 4 issues of the brand new Amazing Spider-Man solicited. So things are going really crazy right now in terms of Marvel's publishing. Great to see you in chat, nobody except me. Really happy to have you in our stream today. I know this is our first stream in a while too, so appreciate everybody showing up. Okay, so it looks like this is the first cover of Amazing Spider-Man that has been solicited for December. This is chapter 63. So right now, Amazing Spider-Man is headed into the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man arc over in the month of December. This one is quite fascinating. As you can tell, it pivots the franchise really far away from what Zeb Wells was doing with the character of Spider-Man going up against Tombstone. I believe in the wake of the Blood Hunt crossover, the character of Doctor Doom actually became the Sorcerer Supreme in the Marvel Universe, and he has some association with Spider-Man to make things really interesting. As you can see on this cover here, Spider-Man has a brand new suit as well. Let's check out the solicit here for issue 63 and see what new story elements or continuity we can pick out of the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man story. By the way, this comic book is written by Justina Ireland. I know Joe Kelly has also worked on previous issues of the series. This one also features artwork from Gleb Melnikov, which I think is really interesting. I love Gleb Melnikov's work at DC over on the Robin comic book. I think he's a really great artist. I can't imagine what some of his Spider-Man work is going to look like. Also coming in and really remaining from the Zeb Wells era is Ed McGuinness. His covers and the way that he's able to illustrate Spider-Man is absolutely insane. Okay, let's go ahead and check out this solicit here. Spider-Man finds himself face-to-face with Kairos, hopefully I pronounced that right, Scion of Sidorak. I know the character of Juggernaut is related to Sidorak, so learning more about where Juggernaut's powers came from in the context of a Spider-Man story with this like Doctor Doom veneer, really over the entire comic book, is just absolutely fascinating. I cannot wait to check out this comic book. Frankly, I really want Spider Man to go into a big sci fi setting, and the idea that Justina Ireland and Joe Kelly are positioning Peter Parker in that context is really cool, especially because I think so much of Zeb Wells' stories in his Spider-Man run were really devoted to fleshing out like a more like grounded take on the franchise, especially when you look at the gritty crime drama and gang war. Okay, Kairos represents the inevitability of time and takes Spider Man on a heartbreaking tour through Peter Parker's past and future in excruciating detail. How many deaths will Spider Man spend trying to alternate his past and save his future? Okay, so maybe this character of Kairos exposes Spider Man to a way that he's able to change various aspects of his time, and that could potentially be where the Eight Deaths of Spider Man motif comes from. So, in addition to this cover of Amazing Spider Man 63, we also have the next issue solicited, Chapter 64. This is yet another really gorgeous Ed McGuinness cover, and it looks like it's propelling some of the plot threads from the previous issue. This one is also written by Justina Ireland, featuring the same creative team with Gleb Melnikov and Ed McGuinness. The Eight Deaths of Spider-Man continues. Sidorak's most dangerous scion, Calyx, and his deadly Crimson Canines take their turn to inflict physical pain on Spider-Man. Spidey doesn't have many deaths left to spend. This one also super cool. I think this Ed McGuinness cover is so novel, especially as he's able to depict characters like aliens with so much detail in his artwork. Once again, it looks like Spider-Man is headed into more of a darker sci-fi direction, which I'm super interested to check out. I love the Zeb Wells story that was introduced during his run called Dark Web. I feel like he was able to really leverage some of the characters in Limbo to create a storyline that had similar elements to this, and I really hope Joe Kelly is able to play into this element of Spider-Man even closer than what Zeb Wells accomplished. I'd love to see him maybe take on an approach kind of similar to Cy Spurrier as well, and just really devote the Spider-Man concept into so many fields of science fiction and so many fascinating characters. I have a really good feeling about the Eight Deaths of Spider-Man. I'm very happy that Marvel Comics is keeping the numbering, but at the same time, I'm really sad that in just a couple months here, we're going to sunset the awesome work that Zeb Wells did on, Peter Parker in general. But good on Marvel for keeping me interested in this property for such a long time here. Okay, I think that's going to wrap up our coverage of Spider-Man for today. Let's go ahead and see what else we have in store for this stream. Okay, we have a really, really cool X-Men comic book that feels like it's on like the fringes of the entire publishing line. One of the things that I really want to do on this channel is highlight some of the Marvel comics that you may not have enough time to read, but you probably should. This is the third issue of Marvel Comics Phoenix series. I have loved how this series has really taken the character of Jean Grey as the Phoenix and plunged her into so many science fiction concepts in a very similar way that Amazing Spider-Man issue did with Justina Ireland, Joe Kelly, and Gleb Melnikov. This new Phoenix comic book has really seen the character of Jean Grey, meet her father-in-law, the Corsair character, once again. And she's also really collided with so many really interesting cosmic threats in the Marvel Universe. It feels like the character of Adani is just lingering in the background, and that she's going to be a really important foe for Phoenix, being that she was featured in the cliffhanger for the first issue of her ongoing series. We have the Thor character Pericus looming in the background of that comic book, also advising the character of Adani. And as you can see from this cover, there's something interesting happening with Thanos' mysterious Black Order. In fact, I'm not even sure if the Black Order are affiliated with the Mad Titan himself anymore. So there's a ton of stuff going on in Phoenix. Let's go ahead and see where author Stephanie Phillips is leaving off with this character in the upcoming third issue of the comic book. By the way, this one is coming in from Adventures in Poor Taste. Let's check out the solicit. Death from above and below, saving a planet full of kidnapping victims who have disappeared from the gaudy whirlwind of Game World. Seems like just another day in space for Jean Grey, though she did tip off the Starjammers from her less than forthright, She did tip off she did get the tip off from her less than forthright father-in-law, legendary pirate Corsair of the Starjammers crew, and the kidnappers are none other than the children of Thanos themselves, the dreaded Black Order. And yet, somehow it's all about to get a whole lot worse. So this new issue of Phoenix, still written by Stephanie Phillips, featuring artwork from Alessandro Miraclo, colors by David Curio, letters by VC's Corey Petit, and that really awesome cover featuring Jean Grey and the Black Order was illustrated by Yasmin Putri. As you can tell, this first page takes place directly on Game World, which I think is so much fun because it references what Jerry Duggan was doing with the most recent series of X-Men, especially towards the beginning. Also, I am loving all the fire hues coming off of Jean Grey in motion here as the Phoenix as well. Plus, her father-in-law, the Corsair, is also looming just beneath the background of some of these pages. Artist Alessandro Miraclo is really giving a dynamic page design as well when he references so many of these characters. Also, it's pretty interesting to watch Jean battle the Black Order and not understand what their ultimate goal is across the series. In fact, Jean is even interrupted by this mysterious character, and she doesn't even know who this individual is. So there's tons of brand new mysteries that are opened up in this brand new Phoenix series. At some point, I really want to see Jean go up to battle against Adani and Pericus, but I really don't want Stephanie Phillips to rush any of the plotting in the story. Also, I'm wondering ultimately what Corsair's role in this book is going to be. Is Phoenix going to be a buddy series between Jean and her father-in-law, getting more context and more conversations with each other? I'm very interested where Phoenix is heading in the near future. Thankfully, though, with Marvel Comics solicits, we can actually check in on what the future of the Phoenix property looks like. Give me just a moment here, and we will check out the solicit for Phoenix issue 6. I think Yasmin Putri's covers on Phoenix have been incredible. This one is probably my absolute favorite to date so far. Check out this beautiful cover featuring Jean Grey battling the mysterious character of Thanos. This one is still written by Stephanie Phillips, but actually features artwork from Marco Reina. And of course, we already talked about this amazing Yasmin Putri cover. I want to see if we can get a little bit more context between Jean Grey's battle with Thanos in the issue. Let's check out the solicit. On the run among the stars, Jean Grey has been going toe-to-toe with some of the universe's toughest foes, but now a threat is brutally asserting his dangerous reputation, none other than Thanos. And while she single-handedly battled the Black Order, their nefarious progenitor, and his mysterious connection to Jean's many galactic enemies is another story entirely. To have a hope of victory, Phoenix will need to reach out beyond the limits of her own powers and find allies to take a stand against the Mad Titan. So this is actually my first time reading the solicit, and it actually makes me think that Thanos may still be affiliated with the Black Order, because I can't imagine that them attacking Jean would be just a coincidence over in the comic book. Also, one of the other aspects that this solicit is just bringing out right to the forefront of my mind here is just how many cosmic threats Jean has battled. I really wonder how Stephanie Phillips is going to be able to keep this comic book focused with characters like Adani and Parakis looming in the background with the Black Order and Thanos. So I'm really intrigued with how all this plotting is going to come together. I wonder if Thanos could be the mastermind behind this whole storyline, or just what some of the broader implications of this story are. At some point, too, I wonder if Jean is going to have anything to say about the X Men's upcoming raid on Grey Malkin as well, being that some of her, closest friends, Rogue and Cyclops, are going up against each other. So there's tons of interesting stuff to explore for the future of not only Phoenix, but the X Men as well. In fact, we've teased this our entire stream. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the brand new solicits for the X Men comic books in December. Marvel Comics just recently dropped this really fascinating article detailing their upcoming raid on Grey Malkin crossover for the X Men. I recently came out with a channel up on our stream talking about just how interesting this new crossover is, but there's still tons of new solicits to check out for the issue. Let's go ahead and preview what's coming in for both Uncanny X-Men and X-Men over in December. So this one's coming in from Marvel.com. New Raid on Grey Malkin crossover pits X-Men against X-Men for the future of Professor X's dream. The X-Men's new era is officially underway, and starting this December, fans will experience an epic crossover between two of its three flagship titles in Raid on Grey Malkin. Left broken and scattered in the wake of Krakoa, the X-Men have since regrouped into distinct teams of their own. In Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman's X-Men, Cyclops leads a squad of hardened mutant soldiers out of an abandoned Sentinel factory in Alaska, while in Gail Simone and David Marquez's Uncanny X-Men, Rogue attempts to build a new home with her chosen X family, along with a handful of students down in Louisiana. Their different approaches to the X-Men's mission erupts into a tense standoff when a plan of action is needed to take down Grey Malkin Prison, formerly Xavier's Institute. I have a feeling that there are so many dark and depressing feelings harbored very deep within so many of our X-Men characters. The last Hellfire Gala was so explosive for this franchise and just really ripped the island nation of Krakoa away from so many of our heroes. Watching Rogue really come to blows with Cyclops, I think really feels appropriate in dealing with some of the baggage that came off of the last big X-Men crossover. Frankly, this is why I want, Marvel Comics to tell more long-form stories, because then I feel like we can get more cohesive comic books like this brand new X-Men crossover. The X-Men school has been transformed into a brutal penitentiary for mutants by the callous Dr. Karina Ellis, and her prize inmate is none other than Professor X himself. But after his actions during Krakoa's fall, is Professor X worth saving? And who or what is the secret weapon that Ellis is confident will protect Grey Malkin against any attack? Find out in this 4-part milestone that solidifies the X-Men's post-Krakoa world. Alright, so this entire crossover kicks off with X-Men issue 8. Let's go ahead and check in on the solicit and see what Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman have aboard for the beginning of Raid on Grey Malkin. With one of their own incarcerated, the X-Men move on Grey Malkin Prison in order to free their teammate. But it's not just one team. In Alaska, Cyclops' X-Men scramble a rescue mission, while in Louisiana, Rogue's X-Men move to strike out on their own sortie. Doctrinal rivals, each with their own objective. Will these two fractious teams find themselves at cross purposes? After all, an X is made by two lines crossing. Man, that is a really well written solicit. Some of the solicits from Marvel can be a little bit cheesy. I think one really interesting thing to note about this is the really subtle way that we're starting to see Rogue and Cyclops start to conflict with each other. In the most recent issue of X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, there was a conversation between Rogue and Cyclops that played out in different ways across the two comic books, but it was the one same singular conversation. And it was really settled too. If there was any animosity, it was kind of featured in the subtext. So I'm really wondering if future issues of X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, maybe before this crossover, is really going to feature a breakdown in some of the communication between Rogue and Cyclops in the immediate future. I love this cover on Uncanny X-Men issue 7 for so many reasons. It's not only beautiful, the composition is not only beautiful, but one of the other really important parts about this is it's starting to make good on some of the bigger X-Men continuity. When the roster for these X-Men teams were first revealed, it was hard for me to get as immersed into some of the characters in Uncanny X-Men as I was in the main X-Men roster. But I think the saving grace for this series are the mysterious outliers characters. Ransom, Death Dream, Jitter, there she is, and Calico. Seeing these two characters, or seeing these, multiple characters teamed up alongside Rogue and her X-Men squaring off against Cyclops and his team is also interesting. Cyclops' team has been fascinating for me since day one because we have Temper, Kid Omega. I think Quanon is frankly a pretty interesting character. Plus Magic. I've really been enjoying some of the camaraderie between Magic and Juggernaut in recent issues. There's been so much drama with Magneto in the background of recent X-Men comic books coming off of Krakoa. And my God, we haven't even talked about Beast yet. Cyclops, or excuse me, not Cyclops, but Nightcrawler also got, some huge implications during the Krakoan era, but it's not quite as interesting to the core of his character as it is with Beast. Nobody Except Me says, I love the reference of the cover, especially with the release of the Marvel vs. Capcom collection this past week. Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit. There's something really gorgeous about watching some of those Eastern artists depict the X-Men, and I feel like you can definitely get some of the visual inspiration too from that really excellent game that was recently re-released over from the cover. Finally, too, I wanted to really mention and stress the fact that there's some progression because we finally get the Outliers characters featured on a cover with our current Uncanny X-Men roster as well. All right, let's go ahead and check out the solicit on the first issue of Uncanny X-Men in Raid on Grey Malkin, Chapter 7, Part 2 of the crossover. The raid continues as two conflicting teams of X-Men come to a crossroads at Grey Malkin Prison, as if the perimeter protocols and the prison's mutant trustees weren't enough. Team leaders Rogue and Cyclops find themselves at war over the uncertain legacy of Charles Xavier. Another aspect of the X-Men continuity that this is also bringing to the forefront of my mind is I wonder if Gail Simone is already going to feature a big battle between, Rogue, Cyclops, and Dr. Karina Ellis here. She's been setting up so many of those plot threads, and to really pay off on everything so soon into her X-Men series is a really interesting and ambitious way to continue the series. I'm happy that the X-Men comics don't have super decompressed plotting, and I'm really interested to see if Gail Simone is going to be able to leverage this continuity correctly alongside Jed MacKay for the future of the franchise. Nobody Except Me says, I want to know who it is they are fighting on the other cover. Oh, yes. We're going to talk about that in just a moment here. But before we do, let's go ahead and preview X-Men issue 9. This one is also the third chapter of Raid on Grey Malkin. It's the last issue of X-Men that is tying into the overall crossover. This one features the usual creative team of Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman. Rogue and Cyclops come to blows as emotion come to a head, pitting the two groups of X-Men against one another in a place where their only chance for survival is to stand together. Xavier's dream lies shattered, and broken edges always draw blood. Okay, so one thing that just came into my head as I was looking at this cover is the fact that we can see Wolverine's claws going up against Quanin as Psylocke. This is pretty interesting because these characters are actually on two different teams with X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. So once again, we are seeing the animosity between these two factions of characters captured in a really like unique and visually dynamic way. As we continue to get deeper and deeper into Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman's X-Men run, I start to appreciate more and more what Stegman is doing with the visuals. I feel like he's getting pretty ambitious in how he's positioning some of these X-Men characters. Also, the last panel of X-Men 4 was incredible, and I love the way that it was able to juxtapose the very first panel. I really hope that Jed MacKay continues to implement some of the symbolism and care and all the subtext in the issue too. Nobody Except Me says, also, what's going on with Cyclops' sword now? She is wrapping it in her Psyblade energy. I like it. Gives it a flaming look. Another great observation there. I know that Ryan Stegman said in an interview recently that he enjoyed the new way that he was able to depict Psylocke's blade. And I believe that's the context of why it appears like this moving forward. Okay, Nobody Except Me was referencing this cover. It really has me scratching my head on who this mysterious figure is in the background. It's such a beautiful piece of artwork from David Marquez, too, bringing out not only, Rogue's team of Uncanny X-Men, not only the Outliers, not only these other X-Men characters, but this mysterious figure, set right in the background here. I'm at this point, I'm kind of wondering if it could potentially be Moira or Nimrod. I know that would be really, really crazy to feature a Krakoan plot thread coming back from the most recent iteration of X-Men. But just due to the way this character is posed, it's making me think of those two individuals. We mentioned it over on the video, but this one also features artwork from Javier Guerin as opposed to David Marquez. I have seen Javier Guerin deliver some incredibly dynamic page compositions on recent issues of Uncanny Avengers. I feel like if anybody is stepping into the comic book aside from Marquez, this comic book is going to be really well suited with the artwork of Javier Guerin. Okay, Nobody Except Me actually has some theories as to who this character could be too. I want to read what you have to say. It gives me shades of Nimrod almost, or an apocalypse-related character. I could see that. I could see either one. It almost feels like a Krakoan era cover. Okay, I am so happy I am not alone in these thoughts. The more I look at this cover, the more and more I feel like it's either Nimrod or Moira, but that would be so insane given what happened in the last iteration of the X-Men comics. All right, why don't we go ahead and check out some of the final paragraphs on this news article, and then we're actually going to go ahead and move over into December's Ultimate comic books, which look really, really interesting. I believe this is the solicit for Uncanny X-Men Chapter 8. The most explosive saga ends here with Rogue and Cyclops on opposite ends of the mutant struggle, perhaps forever. Are they honoring Xavier's legacy or destroying it? Do they choose loyalty or the law? An all-out action issue that will affect both teams with devastating results, featuring guest artist Javier Guerin. Okay, you know what? I actually talked about some of these quotes from both Gail Simone and Jed MacKay in my video here. I don't think we need to go into them in too much depth. The one thing that I really wanted to mention more in my video that I just forgot to say, frankly, was that Gail Simone was saying some really interesting stuff about having maybe shorter crossovers in this brand new X-Men line. I think that's a really intriguing idea, and I definitely remember stories like Messiah Complex that really stretched out way too much X-Men continuity. Plus for some of these crossovers, there's like all these massive story beats that they absolutely like have to hit. So sometimes when you stretch those stories out across, five, six, seven, eight, nine issues. It just doesn't come together appropriately. So I think this is a really, really intriguing idea. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and transition over into the Ultimate line. In addition to having some really cool mainstays like Ultimate X-Men, this month actually introduces a brand new one-shot for the line. So there's tons to talk about this month in December in terms of the Ultimate books. All right, this one is coming in over from David Brooke from Adventures in Poor Taste, exclusive Marvel First Look Ultimate Titles Roundup, December 2024. The clock is ticking as the maker's arrival inches closer, plus Spidey in a Santa costume. Enough said. One of my favorite aspects about the Ultimate line currently is that it has like one singular story that really serves as the meta nature for the entire line that should unite, almost each and every Ultimate comic book. And that is the idea that the maker is coming back very soon. Comic books like the Ultimates have really featured a team of almost like Avengers like characters spearheaded by Tony Stark going up against the maker and getting ready for his next arrival. Courtesy of Marvel Comics, Adventures in Poor Taste can share solicitations and cover art of the Ultimate Universe titles in December. Highlights include the second story of Ultimates, classic Nick Fury making an appearance, the maker's plans involving cult mutants. Ooh, I wonder if this is referencing the Homo Superior cult in Ultimate X-Men. Spider-Man and Santa Gear. I think this is referencing the fact that Ultimate Spider-Man is moving in real time, and this issue was published within the month of December. Okay, but it looks like Peter is getting a kid's sidekick. Black Panther has vibranium in his blood and more. Ooh, I love the idea that Black Panther could be supercharged with vibranium blood. That's a really interesting science fiction twist. All right, just what is going on here with Ultimate Universe? I'm seeing plot threads spilling out of so many Marvel Ultimate comic books referenced on the cover between characters like Maystorm and maybe the Ultimate Spider-Man together on the first time. We have Black Panther and so many of the Maker's Council that serves as the subtext for multiple comic books extending towards titles like Ultimates, Ultimate Spider-Man, and even Ultimate X-Men has talked about the Maker's Council too. Also, I don't think we've ever seen artwork from Raphael Albuquerque in the new Ultimate Comics line. This is brilliant. I'd love to see more work from him in the context of the Ultimate Universe. There is so much characterization on this cover. This is like a crazy, like Jim Steranko-esque piece of art that is referencing so many of the Ultimate Comics spread out across the line here. Way to go. Way to go to Marvel's editorial and to this incredible cover. This one is written by Dennis Camp. It's called Ultimate Universe 1 Year In. I am shocked at how fantastic every single issue of Dennis Camp's Ultimates has been. I don't know if I've read the most recent chapter detailing the mysterious, maybe origin story of Doctor Doom, but every comic book I've read from him has been amazing. This one also features art from Jonas Scharf, who delivered so many great pages on Dark X-Men. This is a wonderful creative team. Let's read our solicit to see what the creative team has in store for this Ultimate one-shot. The clock is ticking down to the maker's arrival. Dennis Camp flips the narrative on Ultimates and takes us inside the Maker's Council. The heroes of the Ultimate Universe aren't the only ones who have been preparing for the return of the Maker, and the clock is ticking down. This unique one-shot sets the stage for the second year of the Ultimate line and includes the debut of two major Ultimate Marvel characters. I like so many things about this. I mean, first, it's expanding like the meta nature of the Ultimates with these characters dealing with the return of the Maker. I wonder if some of the characters in the Maker's Council could be trying to defect towards the Maker and maybe betray him. I think that'd be a really, really cool plot thread to dig up there. Also, I'm intrigued how, characters in the Ultimate line are set to come together in this story. I love the idea of Marvel trying to focus the Ultimate line by introducing this one shot that should open up some more plot threads for comic books like the Ultimates to explore. Very curious about this issue. It looks like it's on sale December 11th. Okay, let's go ahead and check out Ultimate Black Panther. This is a really interesting cover too. I love Stefano Caselli. I think he's great at delivering just really intense facial expressions for his characters. And it looks like we have a brand new villain introduced to the story. One thing I really wanted Ultimate Black Panther to do is just to explore like new content or new ideas with the character. I read, I believe, the first two issues, and there were so many things about it that were so similar to not only the movies, but some of the older runs on the character. I really wanted Brian Hill and Stefano Caselli to push the limit a little bit more, and I think they're delivering what I'm asking for in Ultimate Black Panther issue 11. A new villain joins the fray. Black Panther's war of attrition against Moon Knight becomes more complicated as Wakanda's defense must become two-pronged. Plus, T'Challa discovers vibranium in his blood, bringing with it even more visions and mystery. Yeah, once again here, I am hoping that this new character introduces tons of brand new stories and ideas for Ultimate Black Panther. I feel like this comic book could be one of the most interesting in Marvel's Ultimate line. I'm just waiting to see something different and unique from this comic. Okay, so here is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 12. As noted, it looks like some of these Ultimate comics are moving in real time. December is the month of Christmas, and it is also the month of Christmas for Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Let's hear what Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto have in store for Ultimate Spider-Man 12. Season's greetings from the Parker family. But why is Peter Parker acting so strangely during the most wonderful time of the year? And what's got Gwen so concerned? Don't miss the thrilling conclusion of the second arc and the first year of Ultimate Spider-Man. I love Marco Cicchetto's artwork. I think this cover is wonderful. The design with Spider-Man is super visceral, and the cover is just so silly too, captured in amazing detail. I love the fact that the Kingpin is featured here too. This is really thematically appropriate because I believe the Kingpin is also on the Makers Council. I'm not the biggest fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, but I at least appreciate, this anniversary issue and the fact that there's so much attention to detail in the artwork from Marco Cicchetto as an artist. Okay, it looks like there's tons of stuff to talk about here in terms of Ultimate X-Men 10. I want to take maybe just a quick step back and say once again here that Ultimate X-Men 7, the most recent one that came out, was by far, I think, Peach Momoko's best comic book to date. Seeing her rendition of really ultra, villainous characters featured in that Homo Superior cult was amazing. Watching very young Ultimate characters like Surge show up as part of that cult alongside figures like Mori and Natsu are so harrowing. I love just the emotional depth Peach Momoko has been able to levy towards Ultimate X-Men, and it has really propelled this comic book to be my absolute standout favorite of the line. This is so much fun for me to see as, just a reader, because I feel like there was so much potential in what Peach Momoko was doing in those like Demon Wars comics, the Demon Days stories, and I feel like it is finally captured in its like purest essence in Ultimate X-Men as a series. Let's check out the solicit on the 10th issue. Enter Viper. Viper enters the stage after a mass raid on the cult known as the Children of the Atom. What has the Makers Council been doing with the cult's mutants, and what of the mysterious figure they've been keeping prisoner? Hisako and her friends face a new world order as the raid leads mutants unleashed. So this is 3 months into the future of Ultimate X-Men. In the most recent issue, We were introduced to the new version of Psylocke. We've already gotten some strong characterization with Nico Minoru. Surge has been featured in the background of so many comic books too. Peach Momoko has really delivered a ton of characterization with her relationship with the villainous Kageyama. Viper was also introduced, I believe, in the last issue, and I'm very curious to see how the Ultimate X-Men are going to be able to square off against both her and the children of the Atom Cult in the months to come here. Nobody except me says, love where Ultimate X-Men is going. I'm so happy I'm not alone with my love of this comic book. Also, just like that cover teased, that Ultimate Universe cover teased, I'm super thrilled to see how maybe Maystorm is going to team up with Spider-Man in that one shot. That's going to be like, watching Kamala Khan join the X-Men for the first time. That's going to be so much fun to watch. Okay, we also have the next issue of the Ultimates. Oh man, it looks like this one is also hinting towards some progression for the franchise. We were really recently introduced to not only the She-Hulk, but America Chavez in some recent issues of Ultimates. I believe Hawkeye is set to be introduced in some upcoming stories too. Very interested to see like what kind of role the Human Torch is going to play and how Iron Lad is going to operate alongside this brand new team of Ultimates characters. This is a super awesome cover from Dyke Ruan. Let's check out the solicit on Ultimate 7. By the way, of course, this one's still written by Dennis Camp, featuring artwork from the excellent Juan Fregreri. This is a really great creative team from back to front here. Perfect jumping on point for the uninitiated, the aftermath of the explosive last issue, including the loss of a major member. It might be a good idea to shake up the team a little bit in terms of the Ultimates characters. Two people that I would actually probably like to see go are probably Thor and Sif. I feel like they're not nearly as interesting as people like the new Ultimate She-Hulk, the new Ultimate America Chavez, or even this new take on Hawkeye. Yeah, really, really intrigued about that. Afro SF, I am so sorry if I spoiled any of Ultimate X-Men. I know, I kind of have a feeling you're not too far behind on that book. Hopefully some of those upcoming plot threads that we looked at will kind of, bolster your enjoyment of the story instead of detracting from it. But apologize if I mentioned too much there. That being said, though, there is a ton to appreciate in terms of Ultimates. I really hope that Dennis Camp keeps moving forward with such a strong pace in terms of this new issue. Frankly, this is the best I've seen the Ultimate line in months. I'm really intrigued at almost the full roster. No, I think I am intrigued by each and every roster of this series, each and every creative team, maybe aside from Ultimate Spider-Man. I think this is probably one of the brightest spots in Marvel's overall line right now. Nobody except me says, is that Human Torch? I think so. I'm pretty sure that's who it is, given especially the roster of the rest of these characters. I feel like Captain America is so core to the Avengers as a franchise, so is Iron Man. Having somebody like Human Torch feels really appropriate because it's tied into the history of Marvel Comics. All right, let's see what else we have in store for our stream. Okay, we talked about Raid on Grey Malkin. This next story I think is going to be really interesting. It's going to really kind of catch me up to date on some of the continuity for Marvel Comics. Let's see here. So right now, the character of Sam Wilson has been more important to Marvel Comics than he maybe has been ever before, due to the fact that he's going to be the face of Captain America for the upcoming Captain America film. I am such a big fan of taking an existing character and like switching them out for somebody new. I love the idea that Sam Wilson is really coming to bat as the full Captain America And this brand new comic book from Marvel seems like it's teasing a ton of new plot threads. We have the Red Hulk in the background, Storm from Iron Man. It looks like the War Machine is in the background. And we even have, oh goodness, the name of this character is escaping me, but he was an excellent hero over from Young Avengers. Super curious to see him in this brand new Sam Wilson title. Let's go ahead and explore what writers Greg Pak and Evan Narcisse and artist Eder Macias have in store for this all-new Sam Wilson Captain America comic book. Quick note here, it looks like this series is debuting over in January. Sam Wilson is taking to the skies once again in a brand new limited series. Okay, that's important to note here. This isn't an ongoing, this is a limited for Sam Wilson. Co-written by Greg Pak and Evan Narcisse, drawn by Eder Macias, Sam Wilson Captain America will put Sam to the test and take him to his limit in an all-new, high-flying Cap adventure. The new series sees Captain America take on a collision course with the Red Hulk after the Winged Avenger uncovers a nefarious plot parading itself as a new tech venture. As both a social worker and superhero, Sam will reckon with his legacy as Captain America in this super spy thriller. Series writers Greg Pak and Evan Narcisse sit down with Marvel.com to reveal further details about Sam Wilson Captain America and its arc Better Angels. This is crazy. This is like the first time we've heard about this Sam Wilson series, and like Marvel is introducing it in the context of an interview with the writers. Very intrigued to see what plot threads they're going to bring on board this book. Working with Evan on this title has been an absolute dream. We've spent hours sharing big ideas, finishing each other's thoughts, and cackling out loud over the story we're cooking up. Seeing the pages roll in from Eder has been absolutely mind-blowing, said Greg Pak. It's going to be a fun, fast, high-octane adventure that also explores what it means to feel locked out of the American dream. I feel pretty confident in saying Sam's never flown skies like these before, says Narcisse. I don't know if anybody has gotten the opportunity to check it out yet, but I think the trailer for Captain America, Brave New World, I think it's called, is really, really good. I think, like, out of all the upcoming Marvel movies, this probably has the greatest potential to be one of the best. Even though I think the MCU is so kind of spotty in terms of quality, the one film franchise that I don't think has had any bad movies is Captain America. The idea of having some synergy with the MCU with this upcoming miniseries is also kind of cool here. Sometimes people kind of bemoan comic books that take on plot threads of the MCU, but I think it probably would help Sam Wilson as a character to get obscure figures like Red Hulk in conversation with him one way or another. We're pulling out all the stops to tell a story that matters, that goes deep into what it means for a black social worker from Harlem to pick up the shield and put on those wings, while delivering massive action and thrills in the grand tradition of the Marvel super spy science fiction. I particularly love how grounded this book is with characters like Sam's fast-talking cousin Billy, my new favorite character ever, while taking to the sky in ways you've never seen. And yes, that's a big tease. Don't you dare miss it. Another aspect of this Sam Wilson Captain America series that I'm curious to see if it's really translated well is some of Sam's family. I really love so much of the action scenes in, let's see, The Falcon and Winter Soldier. But the one thing I was kind of disappointed about is I didn't think some of Sam's conversation with the rest of his family members was able to really immerse me in the story like some of those action sequences. I would love to see if Greg Pak or Evan Narcisse could make these characters a little bit more interesting and give them a little bit more personality. I feel like this could really fix some future movie stories as well. Yes, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the mysterious Isaiah Bradley, who's looked like he's being reintroduced back into this series too. When Captain America attends a birthday party for Isaiah, he catches wind of a new tech adventure that sounds too good to be true: magnificent floating platforms in the sky, where the disenfranchised can apply for land grants and establish their own farms. But after Sam discovers the organization's dark underbelly, he'll have to tackle with its head of security the Red Hulk. Okay, that's pretty interesting. There's a lot of plot that they were able to detail. Sam is battling against a tech venture that looks like it's employing Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross as the head of security. This is the cover for the first issue, of course, and it is illustrated by the wonderful Taryn Clark. Taryn Clark delivers like really great modeling and detail on the characters. He's really delivered some great work, not only for covers for Marvel, but DC as well. I'm always happy to see him rendering covers. Very excited about the future of Sam Wilson as Captain America, and I'm happy that Marvel is really looking to capitalize on the upcoming movie for the character too. Okay, I think we're going to have one more story over for the stream today. This one also looks like it's going to be massive here. Over in December, author Steve Folks and artist Ivan Fiorelli are bringing in the new generation of basically Marvel characters over to the universe here. Let's go ahead and check out the upcoming New Champion series. This one is set to debut over in January, of course, written by Steve Folks, featuring art from Ivan Fiorelli. Let's see, this creative team is teaming up to reinvent what it means to be a teen hero in the Marvel Universe in New Champions. Last year, fans were introduced to all new heroes inspired by Marvel icons in the hit New Champions variant cover series. Since then, readers have been eager for them to make their in-universe debuts, and after a few of them popped up in various titles over the last few months, they'll explode on the page in their very own ongoing series. So what's interesting to note is some of the other covers that have popped up, or some of the other characters from this variant cover line that have popped up in other comic books. I think one of the most successful characters to come out of that variant cover line has been Maystorm, who's been one of these supporting characters, probably the second in command over on Ultimate X-Men. But for the rest of these characters, it looks like Marvel is positioning them in a brand new comic book called New Champions. Also, Wanda's Apprentice has also been featured, I believe, in some upcoming issues of Scarlet Witch 2. The group begins with Liberty, Hellrune, Moonsquire, and Cadet Marvel, but will expand quickly over the first arc of the series as more new champions answer the call. But not all are destined to be heroes, and some have dark connections to established Marvel lore that could spell disaster for the fledgling team before they get off the ground. Each new champion has a story to tell, and together they have a world to change. Mystery, action, and drama awaits as Marvel Comics' next beloved teen superhero team assembles. Steve Folks has accomplished so many things at Marvel with the X-Men franchise. His Dark X-Men series featuring Madeline Pryor was incredible. The way that Dead X-Men was able to transition some of the two X-Men comics together at the end of Krakoa was also really, really magical. I do wish that the cover art for this new Champion series was a little bit more detailed, was a little bit more kind of solid in terms of what Jonas Scharf was leveraging over on Dark X-Men, but I see so much potential in this book, and I feel like Steve Folks has delivered so much quality in terms of his recent Marvel comics. I'm really interested to see how he could manage some of these new personalities of these upcoming characters. What do four kids whose lives were derailed by Hydra, Scarlet Witch's mysterious protege, a cursed roller derby jammer, and a Wakandan runaway have in common? Not much. But when Hellrune's mysterious powers activate or bring them together, they'll have to learn how to work as a team quickly or face the wrath of the Cult of Hela. As soon as I saw the new Champions variants, my mind started racing, dreaming up possible origins and code names for these imagined sidekicks. Reverse engineering the cast from the covers was unlike any other creative process I've ever been involved in, and I'm beyond stoked to have a new class of Marvel heroes and new champions alongside artist Ivan Fiorelli, who makes each and every one of these new additions feel like they've been part of the fabric of the universe all along. I'm really looking forward to the diving into the new champions. What really excites me about this project is the opportunity to bring fresh faces into the Marvel Universe and explore something new. These young characters have their own stories to tell, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they'll grow and evolve visually as the series unfolds. I hope readers will enjoy our pages as much as I will enjoy illustrating them. Finally, we have a quote over from Steve Folks. I've been dying to write a teen hero team my entire career. It's the first time in everyone's life we're figuring out who we really are, and adding Norse magic or jet powered punches or accidental hell portals to that search for identity is a recipe for storytelling gold. Here's the main cover by Gleb Melnikov, along with variant covers by Paco Medina, Luciano Vecchio, and Federico Vicentini. Stay tuned in the months to come for more about new champions. Okay, once again here, this written by Steve Folks. It looks like we also have artwork for Ig Iguara in addition to Ivan Fiorelli, and this cover is coming in from Gleb Melnikov too. Okay. All right, without further ado, I think that is going to go ahead and do it over for the stream today. I want to thank you guys so much for coming aboard here and for being so patient while we recently took a break on the stream. Just to give you a quick update regarding the channel, moving forward, I'm going to be changing things up. And instead of doing our traditional video reviews, I'm really going to focus on producing some brand new evergreen content that'll hopefully be a little bit more timely as we move forward. If you haven't checked it out already, I really encourage you to go watch our Raid on Grey Malkin video. I put a lot of work into it. There's a ton of information in there, especially if you're trying to get caught up on all of like the individual plot threads for the upcoming X-Men books. We will be working on a mysterious new video in the near future. Please stay tuned. And next Saturday, we will continue our streams as usual. Thank you so much for all your patience. And we'll be back next week and this upcoming week for some fantastic upcoming video content. Thank you so much, and I'll see you real soon.